off. Good evening, everyone. I am Tiffany Feingold. I am the co-founder of Guiding Bright Minds. This parent presentation is less chaos and more harmony with your neurodiverse child. Tips and tricks for a productive summer. So hopefully you're at the right event. As you probably know, if you're first time, we actually host 2 free webinars a month. And we host them with our professionals who are part of the Guiding Bright Mind community, like Katie and Nestlife. So my husband and I founded Guiding Bright Minds because of our personal journey with having a neurodiverse child and knowing the obstacles, how overwhelming, exhausting that journey can be. And so we wanted to create an organization that brings all of us together, brings the community so they understand and get to know our children for who they are and their amazing strengths. Because as we know, our neurodiverse children come with such great superpowers, and that is their superpower. And we want to shed light on that. We want to bring that to the surface. We want to support and celebrate our children for who they are and give them that. So we're excited. We've been having Guiding Bright Minds for about 15 months now. And we want to hear from you. What topics do you want to hear about? What's important to you? How can we help you on your journey? We're here to work together to hopefully be able to support one another, to look at those strengths and to look at what other resources are available. So if you have not signed up as a member or a part of our newsletter, I'm sending things out about events that are going on, what other resources and tools are out there, articles, looking at new programs. I have a monthly Zoom parent support group that I'm running called Champions Together, putting together a birthday buddies program. So we're continually working on ways in which we can bring resources and tools. So thank you for being a part of the Guiding Bright Mind community. I really appreciate that. Let me go ahead and introduce our speaker today. Katie Topham received her BS in psychology from Smith College in 2004, her master's in applied behavior analysis at Northeastern University in 2008, and her Ph.D. in psychology with a concentration in behavior analysis under Dr. Brian Iwata in 2014. Immediately following her undergraduate degree, she began working at the New England Center for Children in Southborough, Massachusetts. Between 2004 and 2010, she held numerous positions, culminating as a residential program specialist. In this role, she provided oversight for the behavioral and educational programs for 9 male students and supervised a team of 22 staff. During her PhD at the University of Florida, Katie was a graduate teaching assistant and graduate instructor for numerous courses. For her last 2 years, she was the lab site coordinator at a local school for students with moderate to severe disabilities. Post-graduation, along with her husband and their infant daughter, she moved to Virginia to open Next Steps Behavioral Centers in Richmond. Across 3 years, the company grew 4 locations and offered person-centered collaborative ABA services for the community. Next Step was acquired in 2020, and Katie now is so excited to join her longtime mentor, Jennifer Phelps, to help grow Nestlife ABA in Colorado and Virginia. Given these experiences, Katie has benefited from the mentorship of top researchers and clinicians in the field of applied behavior analysis and gained valuable experience over the 15 years. When not working with children, young adults, and families, Katie and her husband, Stephen, have 3 daughters named Emma, Abigail, Blakely May, and their 2 dogs, Camping and Anything Outdoors. So thank you so much, Katie, for doing this presentation and helping parents on their journey and what they need to know, and especially because we know summer's around the corner and transitions can be difficult. So I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tiffany. I will share my presentation. There we have it. So thank you for that introduction. Another random fact, I'm actually a native Vermonter. I don't think that there's too many of us out there. And of my many hats, one of my favorites has been working with families. And I feel very lucky to have landed at my dream job at Nestlife. So Nestlife really believes in the science of togetherness. Everyone needs a team who hears their needs and empowers them, and that no one should struggle or celebrate alone. Love it so much because our values are the acronym for our name. We believe in nurturing, engaging, striving, and thriving for families with autism or related disabilities. And we are an in-home provider accepting a variety of insurance. But I'm excited to talk with you guys tonight and thank you for joining. You are here to learn about some tips and tricks to prepare for the summer. Transitions are hard on anyone, anytime, and some of you might be feeling a little bit nervous, a little anxious. This might be you or your children. And hopefully by the end of tonight and some of the ideas that I have to share with you, you can be ready to confidently enter the summer months and celebrate as a family and enjoy that time off. So the goals for tonight are to brainstorm a game plan, develop a system, and then create some visuals or tracking systems so that you can help everyone be on the same page within your household. So we'll start with brainstorming that game plan. So where to start? I would suggest first in just taking a little bit of time to consider what your goals are. You know, what are your expectations for your child, for your loved ones, and for your family? Do you want to take the summer months to build some fun relationships? Do you want to take the summer months to really work on some skill development for your home? If so, what areas? What do you want to work on? And also, you know, considering the chronological and functional age of your loved one. I think, but most of all, the most important part is going to be to develop a clear, concise, and complete picture of what you do want it to look like. So if your expectation is to work on that fun and social work, you might want to select a specific goal like practicing sharing toys. As a mother of 3 young kids, this is always something that I feel like our loved ones can work on. And, you know, I would suggest maybe even just thinking about some specific ways that you would want to formulate that. So for me, I've had success in just setting a routine around how do we practice sharing. I require that we always ask before we take, so use words, whether that's vocal verbal words or a picture exchange or voice output device, and that relationship has to be it's not a no, but it's a not right now or in a minute, and then helping your children wait to exchange that share. And if there's always sometimes difficulty in giving it up, that's when you can enlist a parent for help. Maybe your social engagement for your loved one might be just about reciprocal conversation. And if that's the case, you know, set up the environment for success by explicitly teaching some conversation starters, embedding some prompts around the home, and then helping to teach those follow-up questions. Your goal is more so maybe building on some skills. The increased time at home is a great time to maybe work on some chores. I thought that these visuals were pretty helpful in finding some age-appropriate things to be working on. These are, I think, nice because they're broken apart by age and things that are readily available to work on around your home. So if you are wanting to work on some skill building, like new chores, set between you and anyone else in your home that will be working on that with your loved one for some specific steps. It's important to be on the same page so that the steps to making a bed or the steps to setting up breakfast are as similar across people who will be presenting them as possible. Maybe you want to work on self-management. I will have some ideas on how to set up like a visual schedule for your child that they can make some choices in setting up their own day within some parameters, but maybe helping them learn to set up their own agenda and organize their time will be helpful. Or managing time on preferred activities. Summer can, with unstructured time, sometimes bring us to being a little bit more on an iPad or a little bit longer in water play that are difficult to end. So maybe you want to work on just setting up some structure around them setting their own timer and then earning something fantastic for being able to transition off of that fun time themselves. And finally, it might be a really great time to experiment with some hobbies. Maybe there are some great iPad apps if they want to play on a keyboard, or some pretend cameras. And here's a topic for you to practice taking pictures of today. And let's look at the 10 pictures that are your favorite at the end of the day. So just some ideas for skill building. Next is how you can set up some reinforcement for keeping those skills that they develop and not losing the progress in your hard work. The first point in thinking about this, and again, taking time to reflect to develop your plan, is to think about the chronological versus functional age of your child and whether points or money would make more sense. Points can be super easy. You can get some, marbles to go in a bucket. You can maybe get some pretend money. Or if your loved one is a little bit older, and especially if they've worked on money skills in school, you can set up, earning quarters, dollars, and working on those whole money systems. Once you've decided what currency you'd want to use, it's setting up the prices. And I think the most important point here is to set achievable rewards. To get behavior going and to keep it maintained, it's important to have some pretty frequent reinforcers delivered so that you can really get momentum built. So you might want to set trade-in prices for some lower preferred things, maybe an extra little cherry on your dessert or something, versus higher reward things like a trip out or some event. And when you set those trade-in prices, then you can go backwards and set how much each, new skill or new hobby or skill that you've set would be worth. And again, I would just suggest starting with really frequent deliveries so you can keep it going. So next, for developing a system, you have your vision of what you want the game plan to be. Now, how do we implement? I really love relying on anything that your loved one is really jazzed by. So some kids are true superhero aficionados. And so setting up a couple of superhero visuals might be really great. Or maybe they enjoy coloring or puzzles, but picking things that they will be motivated by and excited to interact with will help with how your system is represented be something that they're really bought into and wanting to participate with. The other part is having your typical day and the options for a rainy day. So for the typical day, I would suggest that you have some very standard set, reliable expectations for weekdays, and to the greatest extent possible, weekends being the same. Maybe you are going to expect, you get up, you pick out your own clothes, and you make sure all of your blankets are up on your bed. And that happens every day. And you might be able to represent some fun things that happen on each day, but plan for the rainy days or plan for the interrupters. Don't be caught without your umbrella. So here are some examples that could be really fun, again, for those superhero aficionados. The one on the left are how you can maybe represent how they're feeling by the different characters. Are you feeling just right in your Superman with your cape flowing and feeling wonderful? Or are you just popping out, really upset, very overwhelmed in the Hulk? Maybe they're really into Batman, and so your morning routine is set up with some Batman tokens that you can move things over on that visual schedule. And the last one on the right is pretty neat. If your child loves the iPad or maybe loves a movie and they're earning being able to watch a movie with you that night, you can just break up that picture so that they earn parts of that picture to complete what they're working on for that time. Here are some ideas that maybe you want to take this preparation time to have your rainy day bin. Some fun activities that if there's a big interrupter, if they were really looking forward to something that's just not available, if you know, a sibling gets sick and then they don't get to do something that they want to do, there can be a bin or some activities that are special and can help offset the disappointment that not being able to do something that they were looking forward to causes. And the final part is creating visuals and tracking systems. How will you represent to them? And again, keep everyone on the same idea. Something that I've found really valuable in this and that I would want to impart to you is those visuals serve not only to help organize your loved one and your child in what to expect or do day to day, but also any other caretaker that you're sharing this mission with. So for me, I definitely created some visuals as much for my husband organizing our daughters as it was for them. It brought consistency for them in expectations and routine, but it also allowed, you know, if a babysitter or if a grandparent is visiting, this is what we're doing. And it helps keep them on that page and in the mission with you. So as you're developing this, again, I just want to emphasize the greatest points here are to be clear, concise, and complete. Try to think of any way that what your vision is will be derailed and plan ahead for some of those interrupters. And also, you know, take to heart the age versus the aptitude of your loved one. You know, some 5-year-olds love Superman and some 18-year-olds love Superman. And I would kind of throw out the window what the expectations of what would be appropriate at those ages are, and make the system and the visuals that are most appropriate for their ability to contact and interact with the system. So I'll start with some ideas for you, and Tiffany will send these out after as well. So you'll be able to recreate anything that you really like. And I'll start more at the teenage end and go younger. Some really neat things that I have seen are summer screen time contracts, but this could be adapted for anything that your child just really enjoys or really likes that you're wanting to use as that item for them to earn. And this just sets some of those routines and those expectations to be very clear. You know, have you brushed your teeth, brushed your hair, gotten dressed, eaten your breakfast, made your bed, and done your chores? Maybe you want to slide in that you can have 15 minutes when all of that is done and before you move on to the next section. But a checklist like this prior to can be very helpful. The other one is just an example of kind of morning and then the daily examples. And I liked this one because it was also built around taking care of yourself, taking care of the shared environment with your family, and building their spirit, their brain, their body, and someone else. So I just liked the way that this was phrased as a way to contribute to yourself and to others. I thought it was pretty neat. The next one, I feel like this is, obviously I got these from Pinterest. I wish that my things could look this pretty, so I wanted to share them with you. But the left one is neat because this is showing kind of that marble bucket idea of what you're earning. So the chores are listed there, and you know, mom, dad, anyone can drop the little rocks in the bucket when those chores are done. And when it's filled, something fantastic can happen, or whatever that, again, economy that you developed with your loved ones can come about. The middle one was kind of neat because it just lists the chores and how much they're worth. So your loved one might be really motivated one day and not so motivated the next, but this is going to allow for kind of that oscillation of how they're feeling naturally to also not cause fights and just be able to know what's available. The other one is pretty interesting, I thought, because it just is, again, equal for everyone. And I like that it becomes a community participation. So everyone's expectations are represented and everyone can move them over when they are finished. Something else that I've seen this idea used for is, you know, gymnastics might be on Monday and Cub Scouts might be on another day. And so if you set days of weeks, you can put those visuals on those days so that your loved one can know when those are going to be. There's one for a little bit younger, again, just represented in kind of the buckets of the phases of the day, not having to be too specific, one with more printed words and one with more visuals. So this would be an easy thing to manipulate for the skill level of your loved one. And again, just going through some clear expectations and things that you can be teaching them. I also like, remember this visual along with the next one. I've loved this idea of colored clocks because concept of time, I feel like especially on summer, can just become so difficult for everyone. The days are longer. I mean, the light is different. All of these stimuli that we usually go off of, the bus to school or are all out the window, right? So if you wanted to, buy some inexpensive clocks or just use covers for the clock, you can have a time code to just help give some predictability and understanding for your loved one. And then the final one is, again, kind of just that weekly calendar more with pictures. So the left side is, what's available on those certain days, and that can help with the persistent asking, is it time to, what day am I? And you can just reference this visual. And the other one being a star chart, pretty typical, these are the days that you did all of your expectations, or you did a great job doing things on your own, and this is what you're earning. These are just some more pictures and a little bit more interactive. So like I was saying, if your loved one maybe wants to have a little bit more control over their day or build their own agendas, this can be a way that you can give them some independence in deciding what their day is going to look like too. So those are the tips and tricks that I had to share with you, a little bit quick, but I would love any questions that you have.
Thank you so much, Katie. That was great. Lots of information. I know we have a variety of different age groups and representatives. So if you guys do have any questions for Katie that you would like to go over, as she mentioned, the recording of the presentation along with the presentation itself and those materials will be sent out. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see a Q&A section. If you do have any questions for Katie, please start the questions. We can look at the chat as well. So I know a lot of motivation. So how crucial is it to really sit down with your child? Obviously, if they're younger, it's not as probably pertinent, but I mean, getting their buy-in, but taking the few minutes to say, okay, summertime, it does give kids a lot of anxiety because they're like, I go from this, I have to wake up at a certain time, I need to get dressed, I need to do this. I mean, for 8 hours a day, their life is controlled pretty much, or every day, even longer than that. And then they go to kind of not as much structure. So how much of this should be created with your child?
I think that the considerations I have with that are some children are really go with the flow, right? Interrupters aren't going to really upset them or throw them for a loop. And so their days can be super structured or loose. And that gives you a lot of freedom. But for those other kids who are very anxious about what am I going to do, and then are there going to be changes, that's where I think over planning can almost work against you a little bit. If you make promises of this is what our day is going to look like, and then it doesn't, it becomes even harder. So that's where sometimes I think those schedules where they're building it as they go, like the picture one here, might be really nice, at the bottom. So like this section, you might put everything that's available that day. You're planning to do, maybe you have a play date with a friend set up, or the sibling has a birthday party that they're going to go to. So those can be on the bottom of the schedule, but rather than building it out in the sequence that it's going to happen, every next step is a choice point. And maybe you say, hey, we can either go outside and play right now or eat lunch. Which one do you want to do first? And have them build it along the way with you so that it's shared on what's happening next and not as interrupting.
I like that. And having some flexibility, but also having definitely some structure. I know with my son, he's so chronological in that he can't go from 1 to 3. Like if it's 1, 2, 3, he has to go in that order, but also allowing if that order has some flexibility from that process. And I would think that especially teenagers definitely need to have that buy-in, because you can just see that attitude of, I don't want to do that or this, and having something that's impactful for them. What do you see is the biggest barrier in really following a schedule? Where do I don't want to say parents fail, but it's hard.
Yeah.
And I think over the course of just my son's 9 years, I've had 10 different charts. How do you keep it consistent?
So I, as a behavior analyst, always say I can develop tons of systems, but the family's capability of implementing them is whether it's going to work or not, right? So we can make super involved things, but if you can't keep up with it, it's futile. That's where I really suggest in developing things that your child will be motivated to interact with. If they love stickers, then to the best ability, you can do those reusable stickers by printing onto like plastic and having something laminated. Or the superhero idea again, involving things that they're going to want to keep with them or carry with them, gets them involved, and almost, ideally they're kind of prompting you of, hey, I'm done with this. What's next on my schedule? Whether vocal, verbal or not, if they're really motivated by what's an option is coming up later, then the likelihood of them bringing it to you is going to be great. The other thing is, that's where I also suggest to envision what you want your day to look like, and then map the visual system that you'll have for your child onto what is already sustainable. I think that so many people now are working from home, but if your job gives you the ability of saying, every 2 hours I can take 20 minutes off, then you kind of schedule those check-ins at those times that are natural for you. So I totally hear what you're saying. And I think that to summarize, my answer is choose interactive things that your child will want to engage with and build them around what your capability is.
And how do, when we look at a chart and have those expectations, and let's say, they do 2 out of the 5. I think one of the things is also giving grace as far as what does that look like? Okay, they did 2, which is better than 0 from the day before. Right. And making sure to capitalize. How should we go about not giving in, but being firm, but also allowing for that rewards of acknowledgement instead of saying you only did 2 out of 5? How do we uplift and praise what's been done? Yeah,
that's where I think that really, when I had talked about, I'm such a visual person myself, so I'm going back to it. Those trade-in cost versus the increments are also so important, right? So, if you want to maybe family movie night is the most wonderful thing for your loved one, and them getting to choose the movie is great. If you can plan for that to happen twice a week, then you kind of say, okay, family movie night is $2, and I'm going to make the 3 chores that they are trying to earn 50 cents every day, so that about every 2 or 3 days, they're able to earn that. So you kind of set the cost for the things, whether it's points or money, to be sustainable for them to be really seeing that progress towards it every day. The other thing that I really liked was this on the right side, the to-dos versus done. to your point, maybe you only get 2 done today. Maybe every one of them is worth 2 points. So awesome. You got 4 points today. That's really phenomenal. What are you working for? This is how many. Okay, so tomorrow, like if we get this amount, this is where you're at. So again, just being clear and consistent with the prices and the organization that you set up for it allows you to celebrate all of those successes and be framing things in the positive for you can keep on working towards this. And tomorrow, if you can complete XYZ, you're only 1 day away.
Wonderful. All right, I haven't seen any questions. Does anyone else have any questions in chat or the Q&A? Please add it. I do have another question.
Yeah.
So how long should we give this to really kick in and settle in? What time frame?
So habits are hard to create. This is also something where, you might want to talk with your child's teacher about anything that they have going on in the classroom already, because maybe they have systems that would be easy for you to bring over. I've seen some families, if you'll see those color clip charts in classrooms, and they'll decide to bring that home. And maybe you kind of develop some of your system off of that clip chart. So I would find the systems that maybe they're already familiar with. And then I think really giving it a solid 3 weeks is ideal. I know Colorado school is getting out right after Memorial Day. So I would really give this your all for that month of June. And then maybe make some changes in July if you need to. But a good solid team effort for at least 3 weeks, I think would be great.
And I think, to your point with school coming out, I mean, right now is the opportune time to just start putting it together in place, start working towards so they see it every day, like having it displayed, like this is what the summer is going to look like. Here's, flexible days or days that aren't flexible. But I liked what you said. And I know one thing as I've grown as a parent in my journey is, the visualization, like, you think you're going to get up in a happy mood and this is all going to go and flow together and everything's going to be perfect. And then you're like, you get sideswiped and you're like, it has never gone perfect. So why would I think? So I think also visualizing the opportunity to allow for those obstacles that are going to come, because that is our reaction is what's going to get the reaction. Just like I teach my son, your actions always have a reaction. There's a consequence, there's a thing, and just making sure that comes into play of we know there's always going to be a repeating of doing things over and over again. There's always going to be, the need to say, okay, did you remember this because of that executive function piece or whatever it is? And just allowing ourselves to think through what that day looks like, and not fully having that expectations, but that it goes that way, but visualize and allow for some of those points in which, it is going to go in a different direction. And how do we handle that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, the people who will say every Monday is a restart and a new opportunity. This is a big one. And so envisioning what you want it to look like, and so the best mapping on the systems that are already there will give everyone the best chance.
I love that. Well, any other advice? I don't see any questions. No one has any questions. Anything else that you would add? And again, I just want to reiterate to everyone, we have a wonderful network of professionals who are dedicated to serving the neurodiverse community. That's one of the things that on my journey, I wanted to make sure we connect people with the right professionals. And that's why they have dedicated their time to doing these presentations to help parents, because day in and day out, they know what those challenges are. I did see a question come in. How do we manage the expectation that life and relationships are transactional, which seems limiting? And do you also recommend that, we'll start there first before.
Yeah, I don't remember what movie I saw the other day where something was like, this transactional versus kind of an intrinsic. This is kind of where I think that the expectations versus the earned, you can get both of those with this, right? There are the expectations that you take care of yourself and you contribute to your family. And those are just staples. And the extra are what are transactional. So I love what I do, but I do it to also sustain my family. And so I think, making your bed or getting dressed and managing yourself in the morning are just set expectations that I don't necessarily think need to be monetized by points or by currency. But helping out in the yard or doing something extra, I think you are teaching responsibility and motivation by setting that price. So to me, and that's where I've definitely, one of the criticisms of, I think especially ABA, is this sort of reinforcement as bribery. To me, it becomes bribery when it's an after the fact, right? So, well, I really want you to do this, so fine, you can earn this for it. That to me then is kind of bribery and transactional versus here are the expectations and this is what you can get for it. And then it is up to you and it is up to your motivation to engage in that to get it. And if you don't get it. So I don't know if that really answers your question.
I'm not sure, but thank you for that. There is one. Do you recommend this for a kid on the spectrum, high functioning?
Yes, I definitely still do. And I think especially, that's where the either like daily planner, daily journal, maybe you want to map it to, moods or hobbies. Like it might be the great opportunity to be doing the hobby option for them. Try a couple of new things, or what activity do you want to do to start meeting some friends? And I think that if they were kind of more on the daily planner, I mean, they probably definitely don't need the visual of step by step of their day. But I think still equalizing some expectations and kind of thinking of, I like backwards planning. What's your vision next year this time? What skills are they lacking to get to there, and using this time to build towards that?
Wonderful. Yeah, and I think that, with each child and just getting, those accomplishments. I mean, it's being like proud of themselves if there are, expectations that are, ones that they can attain and achieve, and that excitement of doing that. And then somebody just wanted to say, I thought this was really beautifully presented, and wanted to
thank you.
That. So
to your point, Tiffany, I'm also, one of my favorite things to do is to just plan with families and to brainstorm. So I would be more than happy to answer some specific questions if anyone wants to reach out. And I think that especially for, the more independent learner that was asked about, this would be a great time to maybe, on Pinterest, there's just so many great resources, or Teachers Pay Teachers is another really good one to kind of have some goal planning and maybe set aside some time that you do it and they do it and then compare. The rec schedule might be a great place to go to for some summer camps, and they can choose, hey, pick two, these are the dates that we're available.
Perfect. Well, if there are no other questions, you guys can have a few minutes back in your evening. Again, thank you all so much for joining. Katie, this was wonderful.
Thank you.
And that's the thing, is we don't have to get inundated with parents. I think we sometimes think there's so much we have to do. Putting a few structures together, putting it in place, having that consistency, and just giving ourselves grace. So you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Appreciate your time. And like I said, I'll be sending this out to you. So everyone have a good evening. Thanks again, Katie. Appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.